My name is Lou Horvath, and I run the Rochester Chesterton Society. Welcome to our 6th annual conference. This is just incredible. And I don't believe any of this really happens, but it does, and we've done this for 6 years, and I honestly, I don't know how any of this happens. We owe so much thanks to the Basilian Fathers of Rochester. Father Leo Hessler is our AirSats moderator. I don't even know if he's here or wandering around the lobby chatting with people. But he and Father Lanzalaka, the president of the Basilians here in Rochester, and all of the Basilians have been so generous. Without their support and money and patience, this whole thing would never happen. So we owe them a load of thanks. This really, being a Chesterton event, you got to start with thanks. And my problem with thanks is that, if I really did this right, I'd be here for hours and hours thanking all kinds of people that have helped us, all kinds of volunteers, in doing everything from publicity to cutting up raffle tickets out in the hall to helping us set up curtains and rearrange chairs about 6 times until we got them right now, all that stuff. We're just so blessed to have such great help. And I thank you all for coming, and I hope that the day is fruitful for you. So let's begin. The topic of wonder is close to the heart of anyone who reads and loves Chesterton. By way of briefest of introductions, I'm actually going to steal some comments provided me on the subject by Father Leo Hessler in an unpublished article. Father Hessler, as you may know, is himself a great Chesterton scholar, and you don't say that in his presence too much because he says, "No, I'm not," but it's actually very true. Father Hessler wrote about how the young Chesterton, caught up in the modern world of his age, which has an uncanny resemblance to the modern world today, found himself in a godless atmosphere of abandonment of all moral tradition, burdened with life, bored with life, seeking after really the unnatural, contemplating the beauty of suicide. I mean, this was a young man at the slave school, mostly at the time, an art school in London, and really just lost, just spiritually lost. Father points out that a couple of voices drew him back from that precipice. And Father cited 2 in particular, and they might surprise you. Walt Whitman, expressing his sense of wonder and trust in the basic goodness of the common man, and Robert Louis Stevenson, whose attack on pessimism, empathy with a boyhood sense of wonder, affirmation of the basic goodness of man, really sing out against the helplessness of what was advanced thinking at that time, and really is the same advanced thinking that we're burdened with today. At least there is this uncanny resemblance. There was Chesterton's own sense of the rapture and delight of the thisness of being, reawakened from his own childhood memory. Existence is better than non-existence. You imagine the child in the womb saying, "If only I could be born." Within the head of a 3-year-old, Chesterton relates, there's a new universe, as if it were the 7th day of creation, a new system of stars, new grass, new cities, a new sea. And so it is, Chesterton relates, that a child of 7 is excited by being told that Tommy opened a door and saw a dragon, but a child of 3 is excited by the fact that Tommy opened the door. It is, Father points out, the 3-year-old's perception that's deeper. By boyhood, this same kind of perception is dimmed and loses depth, in childhood. And in adulthood, it's wholly gone. except when you see your own child or a child open its own mind to the world, and for the moment, as Father said, the adult again discovers the grass. For the young atheist Chesterton, the wonder of existence was a step toward a need to thank someone who had created all this. And so, if you're familiar with Chesterton, you sort of know the story. He went out to construct a new religion of his own, a new heresy of his own that would fit the complexities of human life of his day and provide some glimpse into this mystery. A way of thinking, Chesterton wrote, suited to the desirability of an active and imaginative life, picturesque and full of poetical curiosity, a life such as Western man, at any rate, has always seemed to have desired. We need to view the world, Chesterton said, so as to combine the idea of wonder and the idea of welcome. So Chesterton relates how he tried to found a heresy of my own. He said, I was punished in the fittest and funniest way, for I've kept my truths, but I've found not that they were not truths, but simply that they were not mine. When I fancied I stood alone, I was really in the ridiculous position of being backed up by all of Christendom. I'm maybe wandering a bit from the point, as Chesterton does, but I wanted to get back to voices, because that's really sort of, we're going to listen to a number of voices today. They're going to introduce us to other voices, and whose work is echoed again and again by yet other voices, and voices that may seem on the surface to be unrelated, as perhaps Whitman and Stevenson might seem to you to be unrelated, and in fact, it's not exactly the case. Stevenson, in fact, wrote a marvelous essay on Whitman, and I got to say this, a most fierce letter defending Father Damien, which is well worth looking up and reading. You wouldn't believe this is the same Robert Louis Stevenson. If anyone could pillory someone that cleanly and neatly and do it with great respect, it's a rare gift. Anyway, I'm sorry. For many of us, these voices in the cultural heritage of Christendom resonate with each other, and they foster that same desirability of an active and imaginative life of which Chesterton speaks. I think of the most direct analogy for looking at all these voices that help to lead us to where we need to go as a window. You can't stare directly at the sun, but you need its light. And so, plus, number one, first of all, we recognize that it actually is there. There's a thisness to the sun. It's there. It's not a mental construct or delusion, but you can't stare at it. And wonder is somewhat analogous, I guess. And these voices are analogous to me with windows. With a window or two, we let the light in. And this is what scores of writers and poets and thinkers and someone like Chesterton, who happens to be all three, and then again something else. That's what they do for us. And it may be different windows and different writers for different people. Some of them are more effective than others. And I was thinking about this analogy. There's also there's an interesting kind of sidelight, and I just want to touch it for a moment. There's also a kind of manufactured light. It's not really the light of the sun. It's a cheap substitute. There is someone they call the bearer of light. This cheap substitute can parody, but isn't the light of the sun, and can be a little bit seductive and tease and fool us and distract us and make patterns and images that make us think, don't look out there, trust me, don't open the window, trust me, I'll show you what it is, I'll show you the truth. Close the shades, believe in me. I can even manufacture laughter and applause. I think you catch my drift. There is the real light. And that's the light that these writers and poets open a window to. And so it's really, this is a day of introductions. You're going to be introduced to each of our four speakers. They have no idea who's introducing them, and that's my little joke on them. That's one of the last few jokes I have left. So they're clueless as to who's going to walk up here and introduce them, which I sort of like. But these speakers, then they're going to introduce you to other people, and most of the other people they're going to introduce you to are dead. It's minor. That's minor. That's really minor. These dead people left us a legacy. They left a window, for a number of windows, each of which can be opened. Windows to the real thing, the light that shows, for those who can and will see, the world charged with the grandeur of God. Gerard Manley Hopkins was one of those voices, and I would just like to read his poem. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, all morning at the brown brink eastward springs. Because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. And so, combining the idea of wonder with the idea of welcome, I would like to welcome Mr. John Frazier of the Rochester NY Chesterton Society to introduce our first speaker.